This happened a few months ago. I was 32 and had been working as a night nurse at this small city hospital for over a year. The place was old, with flickering lights and long, echoing corridors that felt creepier at night. I didn't mind the late shifts. They were just part of the job. But after those first few nights, I've never stopped thinking about what I encountered. It started on my second night shift. I was making my rounds when I heard a soft thumping from one of the empty patient rooms. I thought maybe it was a piece of equipment malfunctioning, but I felt drawn to check it out. I walked over and pushed the door open. Nothing was there. I shrugged it off and went back to checking on the patients. As the nights passed, strange things began to pile up. One night, I was in the break room when I noticed the nurse's cart slightly moving on its own. I thought I was imagining it, but the next time I glanced over, it had definitely shifted. I felt a chill run down my spine. Maybe it was just the old wheels? I wasn't sure. A few nights later, I was in the hallway and I felt a sudden drop in temperature. It was strange. It felt like walking into an icebox for just a moment. I shivered and brushed it off as fatigue, but then I could swear I heard someone whispering just behind me. I turned around, but there was nobody there. Then came the figure. I was on my way back from the supply room when I spotted a shadow at the end of the ward. It looked like a person, but when I got closer, it vanished. My heart started racing. Did I just imagine it? Was it exhaustion? Patients began reporting odd things too. I'd hear them talking about family members visiting them in the night. The problem was, these loved ones were long gone. I thought maybe they were just confused. But then, doubts crept in about my own sanity. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Sometimes it felt like someone was right behind me. I'd turn, but all I'd see was empty space. I really wasn't sure what to think anymore. Then, one night, while I stood with my back to the nurse's station filing paperwork, I heard a voice whisper my name. It was low and raspy. I turned around quickly, my heart pounding. Nobody was there, just silence echoing off the walls. I don't know what those encounters meant. Maybe it was stress or too many late nights affecting my mind. But there's something about this place that haunts me. I'm not sure if it's the hospital, the patients, or something else entirely. What I do know is that sometimes when I'm alone at night, I can still hear that voice calling my name. It's become a part of my nights now, a reminder of those unsettling encounters I can't shake off. The memories linger like shadows down those dim, empty halls, and I often wonder what is truly watching me from the darkness. I was starting to dread the nights. The whispers and shadows had turned my shifts into long stretches of unease. I felt paranoid, like a puppet in a play where I didn't know the script. I kept telling myself it was just the atmosphere of the hospital, just my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew something was off. That night, I was making my usual rounds, trying to keep my mind occupied. The halls were quiet, save for the faint beeping of monitors and the rustle of sheets. I stopped by room 205. Mrs. Thompson had been more talkative in recent nights, sharing stories of her late husband. She seemed stable, though she occasionally mentioned seeing him. I assumed it was confusion and reassured her it was normal. As I finished checking her vitals, something caught my eye, a flicker of movement near the doorway. My heart began to race. I glanced over, fully expecting to see a nurse coming in. Instead, it was a fleeting shadow, small and darting down the corridor. My gut instinct screamed to follow it, but a wave of dread held me back. I shook my head, blaming my nerves on fatigue. I continued with my rounds, but that shadow lingered in my mind. A few moments later, I was in the break room again, trying to gather my thoughts. Just as I clicked on the coffee machine, I heard it, a soft, raspy voice calling, "Nurse." It was almost a whisper. Panic shot through me, but I turned to face the direction it came from. Nothing. I poured myself a cup, the steam rising like ghostly fingers. I took a deep breath and tried to compose myself. Maybe it was just my imagination running wild.
I scrolled through my phone to distract myself, but then the lights flickered. I sighed, trying to brush it off, when I noticed something on my screen. A series of messages from a fellow nurse. "Did you hear the stories about a patient who died last year?" My heart sank. The woman had been a well-liked figure in our unit, but she had passed on her final night under odd circumstances. It hit me like a stone. I remembered the stories about her, how she had been known to converse with shadows, or so other nurses claimed. I wondered if her presence still lingered. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. I could see my breath. I felt a presence behind me. My skin prickled at the thought. I quickly turned, expecting to confront a fellow nurse or an overwhelming chill. Instead, I was met with silence. That's when I heard it again, the voice, clearer this time, coming from the hallway. It beckoned me, my name rolling off its tongue like a dark promise.
Urge to follow. I dropped my cup, coffee splattering on the floor as I stepped into the corridor. As I moved toward the sound, the shadows shifted at the edge of my vision. I felt as if someone was just out of reach, teasing me with their presence. When I arrived at the end of the hallway, the atmosphere thickened. Then, everything went dark. The lights went out completely, plunging the entire floor into a suffocating black. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't find my voice. In that darkness, I felt it. Something or someone was there with me. I didn't know what would happen next. I was standing at the edge of the unknown, and I was terrified of what I might find. It was hard to tell how long I stood there, frozen in pitch black. The faint sounds of the hospital dimmed into an eerie silence. I could feel the hard floor beneath my feet, but nothing could anchor me to reality. I strained my ears, desperate for a hint of what was around me. Then I heard footsteps, soft, almost hesitant, echoing in the distance. My instincts kicked in, sharpening my senses. I tried to steady my breathing, but it quickened instead. "Nurse!" The voice floated through the dark again, this time closer. The rasp was unmistakable. I swallowed hard, feeling chills creep up my spine. Had I really followed it here, or was it leading me to something unfathomable? The footsteps halted abruptly, and the air around me thickened. My mind raced. Should I call out? Turn back? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Suddenly, the emergency lights flickered to life, casting a dim blue glow across the corridor. I squinted, disoriented. In that fleeting light, I saw them, a group of patients standing at the far end, their expressions blank, as if waiting for something to happen. I blinked hard. They weren't supposed to be up. I had just checked on each of them. Panic punched through me. It felt wrong. I hesitated, unsure whether to approach or to retreat. My gut churned with anxiety. As I took a step closer, a white-haired man caught my eye. His lips moved, as if trying to form words. I leaned in, straining to hear. "Help us, she's coming," he whispered urgently, his voice breaking as if strained by some heavy weight. Who was she? My heart raced. I cast another glance down the hall, where the darkness seemed to pulse. I felt a tug, a call pulling me deeper into the unknown. No! I shook my head, the instinct to flee overtaking me. I turned to run back toward the break room, desperate for light and people. Each hurried footfall thudded like a drum, drowning out the whispers from the patients behind me. As I rounded the corner, the lights flickered again, and in that moment of dimness, I felt it. A hand brushed against my arm. Icy and fleeting. I whipped around, but there was nothing. Just the oppressive quiet of the hospital corridors. My chest felt as though it were collapsing from fear. I pressed on, plunging into the break room and slamming the door behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for breath. The coffee I spilled was still there, dark and pooling, as if mocking my mounting dread. I dialed emergency services on my phone, ready to reassure myself that it was nothing more than fatigue-induced hallucinations. But as the operator's voice came through, I glanced up, and there they were again, those familiar shadowy figures creeping across the sliver of light beneath the door. That's when I saw it. Just beyond the threshold, a shadow shifting, more solid than any of the rest. A figure, unmistakable, lingering too close. It took every ounce of courage to keep my gaze steady. I realized then that whatever had been haunting those halls was no mere figment of my imagination. I had to uncover the truth. My shift was far from over, and so was the nightmare. The door rattled as I leaned against it, heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was outside could sense my fear. The air in the break room felt thick, heavy with a suffocating dread. I pressed my back more firmly against the door, hoping its weight would keep whatever lurked out there at bay. A soft thud echoed on the other side, followed by the distinct creak of the floorboards. My mind raced, questioning every shadow, every sound. Was it trying to get in? I focused on my phone, willing the operator to still be there. "Please, just stay on the line," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Ma'am, are you still there?" the operator asked, a calmness permeating the growing chaos in my mind. "I am," I managed to stammer. "I'm in the break room. I think there's something outside." My voice broke. "Can you describe it?" The operator's tone shifted, concern threading through their words. "No, I can't. It's just a shadow. It moves." The fear tightened in my chest as I gripped the phone, straining to hear any hint of movement. There was another thud, this time louder. I jumped, and the precarious coffee pot teetered dangerously on the edge of the counter behind me. "I'm sending someone right now, ma'am. Just stay calm and keep the door locked." Locked? Panic clutched at my throat. I glanced at the door handle. It had no lock. I had never noticed that before. My breathing quickened. How long would it take for someone to get here? Then I heard it again, a whisper, clearer this time. It was a woman's voice. "Help me," it called softly, echoing through the door. "Ma'am?" I stuttered back, instinctively disobeying all my senses. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" She chuckled softly, but there was something off about it, an eerie, hollow tone. "You must help, nurse. She waits for you." My skin prickled. Who was waiting? What was she waiting for? Without thinking, I pressed my face closer to the door, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever was out there. I had to know. My breath hitched as I saw the shadow dart from side to side, inching closer like a predator sizing up its prey. Then, all at once, all the lights in the break room flickered out, plunging me into darkness. I forgot the operator and dropped my phone, my heart racing in the pitch black. I reached for the light switch, my hand trembling. "Please, please," I whispered, trying to will the lights back to life. As I flipped the switch, the emergency lights blinked on again, casting a dim, unsettling glow across the room. I expected to see the shadow still lurking by the door, but it was gone. Everything was still. But something shifted in the corner of the room, an object thrown across the counter. The coffee pot shattered, shards scattering like stars across the floor. I gasped, stepping back carefully. But then it happened. I felt a tug on my scrubs, a sharp pull, as if something pulled me back, trying to drag me into the void. "Let go!" I screamed, wrestling against the invisible force. Suddenly, the door swung open. My breathing stopped. There, silhouetted against the harsh lights, stood a figure draped in white. The voice returned, that haunting whisper. "Come with me."
That's when everything went white. I woke up on the floor, disoriented and gasping for air. The break room felt wrong, like it had been altered during my blackout. The emergency lights still flickered overhead, casting an eerie glow that made the shadows dance. I pressed my palms against the cold tile, pushing myself up. What had just happened? I quickly scanned the room, my heart racing. The door was still wide open, but I didn't see the figure. The whisper lingered in my mind like a ghost. "Come with me." Who was she? What did she want? Warily, I approached the doorway, my instincts screaming not to step into the unknown. I peeked out into the hallway, the flickering lights barely illuminating the empty stretch before me. There was only silence, thick and heavy. "Hello?" I called, my voice sounding small. No one answered. I pulled out my phone, desperate to reconnect with the operator. No signal. My throat tightened. I couldn't be trapped here, not without help. I needed to move. Cautiously, I stepped into the hallway, each footfall echoing ominously. I needed to find someone, anyone. The hospital was usually bustling, especially at night, but tonight felt like I was the only one left. My mind raced as I recalled my last moments before everything went white. Pressing onward, I turned a corner and approached the nurse's station. The sight that greeted me made my stomach twist. The computers were still on, but the chairs were empty. Papers lay strewn across the countertops, as
if someone had stood up in a hurry. But the real shock came when my eyes fell on the monitor. It displayed a series of disturbing images, nothing I recognized. Faces twisted in pain, whispering just out of reach. I stumbled back, heart racing. What the hell? Then I heard it again, a soft, repeating whisper, but this time it was layered, haunting. "Help us, help us." My blood ran cold. I turned to leave, but as I did, I felt the temperature drop. A shiver raced down my spine. I wasn't alone. I whirled around, facing the direction of the whispers, almost expecting to catch a glimpse of the woman in white again. But instead, I saw it. A figure, back-turned, standing by the supply shelf. Shadows clung to her like a cloak, and I felt the unsettling pull of familiarity. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice stronger than I felt. The figure turned slowly, and my heart dropped. Her hollow eyes bore into mine, the same set of eyes that had whispered to me through the door. "You are needed," she said, her voice echoing through the empty space. Just then, the lights flickered more violently, and I realized this was it. This was the moment all of my nightmares converged. I had to get out. But before I could move, the supply shelf toppled over, the crash echoing down the hall. That was it. This was my signal to flee. I dashed past her down the corridor, my heart pounding. I didn't know what she wanted, but I couldn't stay to find out. The whispers grew louder behind me, as if urging me to turn around, or perhaps warning me of the danger approaching. I burst through the main doors to the ER area, gasping for breath, and that's when I realized the worst part. All the beds were empty. The hospital was silent. Then I heard it, an unmistakable sound creeping closer. Footsteps. I turned to look, and that's when I saw them. Shadows moving swiftly down the hall toward me. Panic settled in again. I knew I had to escape, but could I outrun whatever was chasing me? I sprinted through the ER, my feet pounding against the tile floor as I searched for an exit. The footsteps behind me quickened, matching my frantic pace. I could feel the darkness closing in, shadows stretching like grasping hands. I had to find a way out. I spotted an exit sign flickering down the hall and raced toward it. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more desperate than the last. What were those shadows? Why did the woman keep saying I was needed?
The air felt heavy, as if the hospital itself was alive and hostile. As I approached the exit, I yanked the door open, but it didn't lead to freedom. Instead, I found a stairwell. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I could get to the roof or find another way out.
I didn't hesitate. I dashed inside, taking the stairs 2 at a time, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Halfway up, I stopped to lean against the railing, fighting to gather my thoughts. I needed to focus. The whispers had faded, but the shadows would still be close behind. I took a moment to steady myself and listened intently. Silence. It was both a relief and a curse. Just as I prepared to continue, I heard something. A soft scratching, like fingernails against metal. My heart raced again. I glanced down the stairwell, but all I could see was the dim glow of the emergency lights. "Hello?" I called out, hoping for a response. Nothing. I pressed onward, my feet barely making a sound now. Each step felt like I was plummeting deeper into darkness. The scratching grew louder, more frantic. When I turned the corner to the next landing, I nearly screamed. There, sitting at the top of the stairs, was a black figure. Its back was to me, but it seemed to blend in with the darkness like a living shadow. I needed to turn around, quickly, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "Get a grip," I urged myself, but my own words fell flat against the rising panic. Then it happened. The figure slowly twisted around to face me, and I was met with those same hollow eyes. An echo of the woman in white I had seen before, only this time it was different. This figure's mouth opened, and instead of words, a terrible wail erupted that rattled the very walls around us. I stumbled back, heart pounding in my chest, and finally found my legs. I bolted down the stairs, the sound of that scream reverberating in my mind. It followed me, resonating through the stairwell, making the air thicker with dread. I burst out onto the next landing, my eyes scanning for any kind of escape. There was a door marked "Staff Only." Without thinking, I lunged for it, flinging the door open. The room beyond was filled with medical supplies and equipment, a stark contrast to the chaos I had just run from. I quickly glanced around, searching for anything useful or maybe a way to barricade myself. An old wheelchair caught my eye. I grabbed it and pushed it against the door, praying it would hold. As I caught my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers were still there, lingering just beyond the door. I leaned back against the cold metal, desperately trying to process everything. Then I heard it again, a soft, insistent tapping, like fingers rapping on the door. "Help us." The whispers were back. That's when I realized I wasn't alone among the shadows. This was just the beginning. The tapping grew louder, like a persistent drumbeat echoing through my mind. I pressed my back against the door, my body trembling. This was no ordinary night shift. I was trapped in a nightmare where the walls had ears. Shadows had voices. "Help us." The whispering plea sent chills down my spine. Who were they? I could feel their desperation seeping through the door, wrapping around me like a cold fog. I needed to think. I scanned the room again, desperately searching for something to defend myself with. The supplies scattered about were meant for healing, but they felt like they could just as easily be weapons in this madness. A pair of scissors sat on a nearby shelf. I grabbed them, clutching the handle tightly. If anything came through that door, I would be ready. The scratching intensified, now accompanied by soft, broken sobs. They echoed my fear, reminding me that I was not in control of this situation. I could feel the shadows pressing against the other side of the door, almost as if they were breathing, waiting. "Stay away from me!" I shouted, surprising myself with my own courage. But the noises continued, relentless and mournful. Suddenly, the whispers shifted, a cacophony of voices now overlapping each other. "Help us! Please! We're trapped!" The air hung thick with tension as I realized the voices were pleading for salvation. I hesitated, torn between fear and an inexplicable need to respond. "Who are you?" There was a moment of silence, but then the cries grew more frantic. "We're in the dark, please!" I took a deep breath, clutching the scissors tighter. "How do I help you?" The whispers now stilled for a heartbeat, and then one voice broke through, clear and frantic. "Find the room with the mirror. You'll understand." Before I could respond, the door shuddered violently, rattling against the wheelchair I had placed in front of it. I stumbled backward, my heart racing. It felt like whatever was outside was trying to come in, desperate and angry. I looked around the room. There had to be another exit. I spotted a small window high on the far wall. It seemed like a long shot, but it was better than facing whatever was trying to break in. I rushed toward it, pushing aside boxes of medical gear and supplies. I had to climb. Just as I was hoisting myself up, I heard another scream from the door. My heart sank. The whispers were building again. "Help us! We're fading!" I looked back, torn. Should I stay or should I go? But as the door buckled slightly under the pressure, I made my choice. I pushed myself higher, feeling my fingers grip the cool metal of the window frame. Finally, I squeezed through, gasping as cool night air hit my face. I landed hard on gravel outside, but I didn't stop to catch my breath. I took off running into the night, my mind racing with what I just heard. A room with a mirror? That voice? Who were they? The thought sent another wave of dread coursing through me as I realized the night was far from over. I still had to find that room, and whatever discovered would change everything. I sprinted into the darkness, my feet pounding against the gravel as I navigated the shadows of the hospital grounds. The moon hung low, casting eerie shapes that seemed to flicker and dance among the trees. I could still hear the faint echoes of the voices in my head. "Help us!" The urgency of their pleas sent chills down my spine, fueling my desperation to solve this mystery. As I rounded a corner near the back of the building, I noticed a faint light seeping out from a nearby window. I slowed my pace, heart pounding. Part of me wanted to keep running, to escape whatever evil lurked behind those walls, but another part of me felt drawn to that light. It was as if it pulsed with life, beckoning me closer. I creeped toward the window, peering inside. A dimly lit room came into view. There, in the middle of the space, stood an ornate full-length mirror. It shimmered, and for a moment I thought I saw a figure standing just behind it. I blinked, and the illusion vanished. Taking a breath, I moved to the door, pushing it open slowly. The old, rusted hinges groaned in protest. Inside, the air felt heavy with an unshakable tension. I glanced around, soaking in the details. It was clear this room hadn't seen much attention lately, dust layering every surface. There was something about the mirror that drew me in. I took a few hesitant steps forward, bracing myself for whatever I might see. As I approached, I instinctively reached out a hand to touch the cold surface. But as soon as my fingers made contact, the air crackled with energy, and the reflection warped. The room behind me blurred, while scenes began to shift within the glass. Familiar faces began to emerge, hospital patients I had cared for. Some looked happy, while others wore expressions of fear and despair. I could hear their voices whispering frantically, "Help us! We're trapped!" Panic surged through me. I stumbled back, knocking over a small table that clattered to the floor. Dust swirled around me like angry spirits. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what I was witnessing. I remembered the earlier cries. Were these the same souls trapped by whatever darkness existed in this facility? Suddenly, a loud crash came from behind me. The door swung violently open, revealing a shadowy figure standing in the entrance. I froze, the fear binding me in place. It stepped forward into the light, and I was met with a face I hadn't seen in years. A former colleague, Anna, who had mysteriously vanished during one of my shifts.
"Leave while you can," she shouted, her voice rising in panic, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming for you next." Before I could respond, the atmosphere shifted. The mirror glowed brighter, and the whispers crescendoed into a deafening roar. I felt the walls close in around me as the shadow behind
Anna surged forward. I had two choices: confront the figure or run. I knew I couldn't escape the truth any longer. Then everything went dark. When I came to, I found myself sprawled on the cold floor of the room. My heart raced as I scrambled to sit up, blinking against the residual darkness that surrounded me. For a moment, I felt disoriented, confused about where I was and what had just happened. The mirror loomed above me, unnaturally bright, but I couldn't remember the details of the figure or the voices. Panic gripped me again as I realized I was alone. "Anna?" I called out, but only silence answered. My voice echoed, making the emptiness feel even more profound. I pushed myself to my feet, still wary of the mysterious energy that had enveloped the space moments before. The door still stood ajar, slightly swinging in the near silence. With a deep breath, I walked to the doorway. I needed to find out more. I had to understand why this happened and if there was any way to help those voices, those trapped souls. As I stepped through the door, I felt a chill breeze sending a shiver down my spine. The hallway beyond was dimly lit, the flickering lights casting long shadows on the cracked linoleum. I took tentative steps, my ears straining for noises beyond the faint hum of the electrical fixtures. The profound silence felt oppressive, as if something was waiting just out of sight. I turned left, heading deeper into the bowels of the hospital. The sense of urgency driving me forward clouded my judgment. Each step felt heavier, and the air grew thicker with every passing moment. I spotted something glinting from the end of the hallway, a metallic object reflecting the pale light. Curiosity pushed me closer. It was a key, a tarnished, old-fashioned key. My heart raced. I had a feeling it was significant, perhaps even tied to the mirror or Anna. As I reached for it, a cold gust rushed past me. The temperature plummeted, and I spun around, expecting to see something behind me. Instead, I was greeted by the soft whimper of a child. The sound echoed off the walls, pulling at my heart. "Help!" it called. The child's voice was faint but full of desperation. I felt a sickening twist in my stomach. "Where are you?" I asked, searching the shadows for the source of the voice. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel an unsettling presence lurking just out of view. "Please help me," the voice came again, clearer this time. It was coming from a door at the end of the hallway. I hesitated, my instinct screaming at me to run. I was in too deep already. I couldn't turn back now. I walked towards the door, heart thrumming, grasping the ancient key tightly in my palm. As I approached, I noticed a faded sign, "Patient Room 7B." I swallowed hard. I had cared for patients in this section, but this was not a place I had visited for years. I inserted the key into the lock and turned it slowly. The door creaked open, and an even colder breeze washed over me. "Hello?" I called, stepping inside. The room was empty, but it felt alive, the air buzzing with a tension I couldn't place. And that's when I saw it. A small, worn teddy bear sat at the foot of the bed, its button eyes staring up at me. That was when I realized this room hadn't been empty for long. A new voice echoed in my mind. "You shouldn't have come here." My heart sank. I wasn't alone after all. The air shifted, thick with an energy that crackled like static. I slowly turned, scanning the room for any sign of movement. The shadows pooled in the corners, coiling tighter, as if anticipating a sudden burst of chaos. With my heart racing, I approached the teddy bear, feeling a strange pull toward it. The soft fabric seemed to almost hum beneath my fingers. What was I supposed to do? I looked around, desperately searching for answers, but the walls offered nothing but silence.
"Who were you?" I whispered to the bear, as if expecting a response. The room felt suffocating, and I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears. That voice, the one that warned me before, echoed in my mind again, sending a tremor down my spine. "You shouldn't have come here." I pulled away from the bear, stepping back toward the door. Just as I turned, the lights flickered violently, and I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. I felt a presence behind me, growing heavier and darker. My instincts screamed, "Run!" I dashed for the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. Terror surged, and I slammed my hands against the cold metal, pushing desperately, yelling for it to open. I heard soft laughter, echoing through the room like echoes of lost children. "Help!" That child's voice floated back, resonating with sorrow and longing. "You have to help us." I want to," I shouted, panic spiraling. "Just let me out." But my cries were swallowed by darkness. The energy surged, and I felt hands, cold and spectral, grasping at my arms. I twisted, trying to shake them off, but there was nothing tangible to resist against. "Help us," the voices pleaded again, rising in intensity, drowning out my thoughts. "Find us." "Find you?" I gasped, frustration clawing at my chest as I tried to break free from their grasp. "Where are you?" Then it clicked. The mirror. I needed to return to that room. Somehow, the mirror was the key that connected the living to the trapped souls. I forced myself to breathe, invoking every ounce of courage inside me. "Show me," I yelled into the oppressive dark. "Show me where to go." With that, the room seemed to shift. The energy intensified, and the shadows coalesced around me, then released me, the
Grip loosening as the world blurred. I felt myself pulled backward, and then I was tumbling, falling through swirling darkness. Before I could grasp what was happening, I landed on the cold, tiled floor of the mirror room. The mirror loomed over me, reflecting a fractured image. My heart raced, realizing that this was it, the moment of reckoning. I wiped my brow and stumbled toward the mirror, my hands trembling. The faces twisted within it once more, but they were clearer now. They were crying out, desperation etched into their features. I grasped the key tightly. "What do you need me to do?" Suddenly, the mirror glimmered violently, as if reacting to my presence. I could hear their whispers escalating. "Help us! The darkness is coming! Find the truth!" Without hesitation, I focused on my reflection, searching for clarity. Surrounding the mirror, shapes danced in the glass, shadows flickering as fragmented memories swirled around me. I needed to see deeper, to confront whatever truth lay hidden. "Release your hold," I whispered, channeling every ounce of determination into the glass. The murmurs transformed into a haunting choir, drawing me closer. "Show me!" The mirror rippled, revealing a memory, a scene I recognized. Hospital staff bustling through a chaotic emergency room, Anna among them. The shadows were creeping in, tugging at their forms. But then, the image shifted to a darkened room filled with the trapped patients, their faces twisted in agony. The truth crashed over me like a wave. I wasn't just a witness to their suffering. I was part of it. Their connection to me was deeper than I realized. It was my fault. I had to help them break free. Before I could consciously think, I pressed my palm against the mirror's cold surface. The individuals trapped inside shifted closer, faces twisting, pleading for release. "You can help us." I closed my eyes, wrestling with the storm of emotions bombarding me. I focused on the connection we shared. "I will help you, I swear." The energy pulsing from the mirror surged, and suddenly it felt as though a rift opened. Light poured forth like a dawn breaking, illuminating the shadows that encircled me. The whispers turned to full-bodied cries, a tumultuous fusion of fear and hope. "My name is Anna," a voice penetrated through the din. I opened my eyes, catching a glimpse of her among the faces inside. "You can break the curse. Free us." With renewed resolve, I shouted, I will find the way. The light expanded, bathing the room in warmth, and I held on to the key tightly, determined to unlock whatever had taken root here. Then, everything went white. I woke up again, lying on the floor, the mirror back to its mundane state, no shadows dancing around. But I felt different, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. I looked around frantically, hoping for any sign of the souls I had heard. Help us! I released a shaky breath. The whisper lingered, but this time it came not from the mirror, but from behind me. A soft glow illuminated the shadows around me, revealing a line of figures, familiar faces, standing with gratitude. I felt a deep connection. They were free. But as they faded into sheer luminescence, I realized the shadows wouldn't fade completely. I still had questions, still unresolved links connecting me to this place. The air felt heavy with lingering uncertainty, a whisper reminding me that the stories would never truly end. I'd seen too much. I would never forget. As I stepped back, leaving the realm of shadows behind, I understood that I had escaped, but the echoes of their suffering would stay with me. I still thought about it sometimes, wondering about the souls left behind, still lurking in the corners of the hospital. And I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that one day they might call for me again.